Alright. So, welcome back everybody. This is another deck tech. This one is going to be on Frodo and Sam. This is going to be a very food-based list. And that's a lot of what we're going to be doing today. It's just making food through our hobbits and taking them to Isengard, you know? I guess that's the plan. So, what we're going to start off with is Frodo, sorry. You know, he is a white and a black for a 1/3 with partner with Sam, vigilant. And then whenever he attacks, if you've gained 3 or more life this turn, the ring tempts you. When Frodo, the ring bearer, or when he is your ring bearer and the ring is tempted you 2 or more times this game, draw a card. And then you partner that with Sam for 1 generic and a green and a white for a 2/4, partner with Frodo. At the beginning of combat on your turn, create a food, and then activated abilities of foods you control cost 1 less. So you combo those together to make your foods only cost 1 to pop, and then you gain 3 life, which triggers Frodo, and then you rinse and repeat that. So here's the ring, you know, for everybody who needs to refresh on what this does, because I know I do every time I play this deck. It's legendary, and it can't be blocked with creatures with greater power, so it's really good with Frodo because he's a 1/3 with Vigilance, so you're often able to just swing through, connect, and then just generate so much card draw because he draws cards on his own trigger, and then when you get to the second level, you're going to start looting. So, you know, when he attacks, you draw a card and discard a card, and then he'll trigger and you draw a card. Really, really good stuff. And then whenever your ring bearer becomes blocked by a creature that's they have to sacrifice, it doesn't really, I mean, Frodo doesn't really get blocked very much. So this one doesn't happen too much. But this trigger here really starts to get crazy because whenever your ring bearer deals damage or combat damage to a player, each opponent loses 3 life. So that one's really nice. That can really kickstart things, make things move a little faster. We got all of our plenty of flavor to our food tokens. You know, we got the classic like dinner looking one, or charcuterie board, some sausage, all that stuff. We got this dessert looking one, you know, just really flavor. Got this Card Kingdom one drawn by Andrea Raddick, and this one's super good. I just love the little cat, you know, little food. I got this MTG Goldfish one. It's really nice. And then I've got lunch. So I kind of got, you know, 3 courses here like this. And then I've got just some other flexible foods because you're going to make a lot of food tokens, so always remember to bring tokens. I'm going to start this off with some card draw, you know, one of the most important things you're going to be doing. Mentor the Meek. He is not a hobbit, but he synergizes very well. So when another creature with power 2 or less ETBs, you may pay 1, and if you do, draw a card. Not limited to once per turn, really, really strong. Tecasia's Welcome. This one's just really good. I mean, it's an enchantment. When 1 or more creatures with mana value 3 or less ETB draw a card. This does trigger once per turn, so you have to keep in mind on that one, but it doesn't really run into too many effects. So, really good card draw. This is just, you know, your classic black card draw. You know, you draw 2 cards, you lose 2 life. Pretty easy there for 2 mana. This one's more on theme. I liked it, you know, Foreboding Fruit. Costs 3, target player draws 2, loses 2. But if at least 3 black mana was spent to cast the spell, you make a food token. So, just neat, flavorful stuff. Deadly Dispute. You're going to have a lot of food tokens. You know, you're making 1 every turn with Sam alone, so you can often just sack it to Deadly Dispute in order to draw 2 cards and create a treasure in addition to that. Then we have Savvy Hunter. Really crazy, crazy card here. For 3 mana, it's a 3/3. Whenever she attacks or blocks, create a food, and you sack 2 foods to draw a card. This is just a 2 mana, draw a card whenever you make a food. You just tap this. You're going to be making so many tokens. It's just lots of card draw. The Gaffer, really great guy. You know, you're going to gain 3 life every time you crack a food, so he's just additional value for card draw. Dawn of Hope, whenever you gain life, you can pay 2 to draw a card, and then you can pay 3 and a white to create a 1/1 lifelink soldier, so it can make tokens. It can benefit from your food cracking. It's really good. This is our removal suite. You know, we got the classics, like Swords and Path. Got an instant speed, get rid of some problems. Like maybe a Collector Roof. Anguished Unmaking, our flexible removal here. Instant speed, destroy target non-land permanent, lose 3 life, really good. Terra Sunder, I always like this in any deck that runs green and black. You know, maybe one other color I'd consider this, but, you know, it's really flexible in that way where it's an exile effect. So you can pay 4 to exile target artifact or enchantment, or it's 2 to exile target artifact or enchantment, but if you kick it for the 4, it's exile target non-land permanent instead of instant speed. Really nice. Gumdrop Poisoner, so flexible, really good in this deck. It's just 1 mana, make a food when it goes on an adventure with Tempt with Treats, but then it's for 3 mana, it's a 3/2 lifelinker that when Gumdrop Poisoner enters the battlefield, You can give someone -X, where X is the amount of life you've gained this turn. So you can even swing with her. She's going to gain you life, and then she can give... but you're cracking foods, typically. So you can crack a bunch of foods, get rid of a big boy, or just crack one, get rid of something small. Really nice, and she generates the food for you to do it. Spider food. This one, destroy up to one target artifact, enchantment, or creature with flying. Make a food. And then here's our board wipes. So we run Dusk, destroy all creatures with power 3 or greater, and then we run it because it also has Aftermath, where then you return all creatures with power 2 or less from your graveyard to your hand. Flexibility, baby. And then the Battle of Bywater. This one's, not just from the Lord of the Rings set, but it fits incredibly well, where you destroy all creatures with power 3 or greater, then create a food token for each creature you control. Crazy. And then here's some recursion with Samwise, the Stout-Hearted. He has Flash, and then when he ETBs, choose up to one target permanent card in your graveyard that was put there from the battlefield this turn, return it to your hand, get tempted by the ring. Living Death, we go wide with a lot of Hobbits, a lot of tokens, so it's really good to, if your board gets wiped, or even after a fresh board wipe, you can Living Death, and you're going to benefit a ton. Jaheira, Friend of the Forest. Yes, please, I will have my food tap for mana. That sounds great. That's what she's here for. She is thematic in the way that, she's very fantasy looking. She looks like she could fit into our vibes, but, that's just such a good ability. Same reason we're running Night of Sweet Revenge. It's an enchantment, hard to get removed, and when it ETBs, it makes a food, and it makes foods tap for a green, and it's an anthem at the end of the day if you need it. Here's some more ramp here. Arcane Signet, classic. Prize Pig, this one's super fun. Whenever you gain life, put ribbon counters on it, and then you remove 3 to untap it. Lots of synergy here with the amount of life you gain, so you can tap, untap, and just, get some pretty cool stuff. But it's also just such on flavor. I could not remove it from the deck. It's a good card, so you don't have to, but I love how on theme it is. Lobelia Sackville Baggins. This one is a 2 and a black for a 2/3 Flash Menace, and then when she enters the battlefield, you exile a creature from an opponent's graveyard, and then create X treasure tokens where X is its power. Crazy ramp. That card's good in a lot of decks. This does not have to be the only one. It's targeted flash, or instant speed, graveyard hate, and it ramps you. It's insane. That's crazy. Eleanor Gardner, this lady is super strong. When she ETBs, she makes a food. And then at the beginning of your end step, if you sacked a food this turn, go get a basic land, put it into play tapped. Awesome. Return from the Wilds. I like... I'll pay the extra 1 to have flexible ramp like this, where I can choose 2. Where, search my library for a basic land, put it into play, and make a 1/1, or maybe I'm good on land, I want a 1/1 in a food, or land in a food, cool stuff. And then the classics with Kodama's Reach and Cultivate, we want a lot of lands to play a lot of Hobbits, so these are really good. As always. This is going to get us into more of the token creators, we got Farmer Cotton, he's a green, white X. And when he ETBs, you make X white halfling tokens and X food tokens. So he can just be an endgame blast of food. Peregrine Took, really, really strong synergistic card here. If 1 or more tokens, just any tokens, are created under your control, those tokens plus an additional food are made, and you can sack your foods to turn it into card draw. Tireless Provisioner, she's excellent. She makes foods or treasures whenever a land ETBs. So she's doing what you already want to do, if you need to ramp, great. If you want more food, cool. Want to have a feast? Let's go. Killer Service. This card is so nice. Typically turns 2 and 3, you're playing Sam and you're playing Frodo. But on turn 4, you can play a Killer Service and just drop this, make 3 more foods, crack a food, so you have that 1 left over to trigger Frodo and start that train rolling. Really excellent, excellent card. That just gives you additional synergy later in the game, or at the beginning of your end step, you can pay 2 and sacrifice a token, could be one of our hobbits, or foods, whatever, and it just makes a 4/4 rhino. So we're sending them to the gym, making them swole, and then they come back rhinos, baby. It's great. Alright, Greta. Sweet Tooth Scourge. So she's one I've been kind of playing around with. I think she's really cool in this deck, but whenever she enters the battlefield, she comes and she brings food, so she's hanging out with the party, she's bringing dessert. But you can pay a green, sack of food, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. That's okay. But what you really like here is this 2 sack of food, draw a card, lose a life. Anything where we can convert our extra food into card draw, excellent. Of Herbs and Stewed Rebbit. So this one's really nice for 3 mana. Put a +1/+1 counter on up to 1 creature, make a food. Draw a card, make a food. Third step, create a white halfling creature token for each food you control. So it's providing you the food, to benefit on those tokens, and it's just so thematic, you know? Like, we're really trying to stick to food themes, like Trail of Crumbs. You know, it comes into play, brings a food with it, and then whenever you sack a food, you may pay 1, look at the top 2 cards of your library, reveal a permanent from among them, put 1 into your hand, and then put the other 1 on the bottom of your library. So really, really good card selection. Lotho, Corrupt Sheriff, he's a halfling, he's a sheriff, you know, gotta bring some law to this land, I guess. But either way, he's really in here just because whenever a player, including us, casts their second spell, you lose a life, make a treasure token. So just making more tokens is better for us. Then we gotta have the chef. We gotta have the chef for our foods, you know? So we run Guillaume, Master Chef, 5/3 for 4. He's a trampler. At the beginning of your end step, create a number of food tokens equal to the number of non-token creatures that came into play this turn under my control. You can, but he's really in here. I mean, you do make a lot of foods just through that, but like you living death, and then boom, you just have so many foods. But either way, you can pay 1 and sack a food. Target creature gains indestructible until end of turn. So nice. So flexible. Rapacious Guest. She's awesome. You know, she's a 3-cost 2/2 with Menace. That's cool. And then whenever 1 or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, create a food. So you can make a bunch of foods, because we're going wide. And then whenever you sack a food, just through whatever means you're sacking foods, put a +1/+1 counter on her. And then when she leaves, you ding someone for her power. It's crazy, and it's life loss. So it's not even like damage. It's awesome. Feasting Troll King. He's probably one of the more flexible spots. He's just cool, you know? Like, he's just neat. You know, he costs a lot, but he's just so on theme for what I wanted to do with foods. You know, when Feasting Troll King enters the battlefield, if you cast it from your hand, make 3 foods. But you can also sack 3 foods to return him from the graveyard to the battlefield. So he can be a big body that you can get out very quickly. Academy Manufacturer. Yep, we're running tokens. We're running Academy Boy. Whenever you make a clue, a food, or a treasure, make 1 of each instead. That's excellent. I mean, we're making tons of food. Why not make food, clues, and treasure? So we're ramping, we're card drawing, we're life gaining. It's awesome. Rosie Cotton of Southlane. This card, I think, is just so underrated most times. I mean, it's just so powerful. Whenever you create a token, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control other than Rosie. If you wanted, there's a lot of combos with Rosie. I don't really run anything that's going to go infinite with her, because, you know, all you need is something that when a counter gets on it, it makes something or triggers something else to make a token, and then you can just loop those things, like a Scurry Oak or something. But it's super nice. Very, very good card. So whenever you're making foods, you're buffing your dudes. It's really good. Saradoc, Master of Buckland. He is, whenever him or another non-token creature with power 2 or less, which is, as you can see, pretty much everything we run, ETBs under your control, you make another halfling token. So he's just expanding your board, and then you can tap 2 halflings, or untapped halflings, but you have to, you know, whatever. And then he gets stronger, and he gets lifelink. So he can help gain a ton of life, you know. You can swing through, maybe tap a bunch of things, gain a ton of life. Super useful. Gilded Goose. It's a 1 mana, 0/2, so it's a great flying blocker just to get in the way, because we don't fly a lot, halflings, you know. It's not something we're super good at. But when it ETBs, make a food, and it can make food on itself by paying 2 and tapping it. And then you can sack food to generate 1 mana of any color. So that's really nice. Pippin, Warden of Isengard. He can pay 1 and make food, so he's a cheap food maker. But you can also sack 4 foods and anthem your team and give them haste. So that's always really nice. Very unexpected. And it is partnered with Mary, Warden of Isengard. He is whenever 1 or more artifacts enter the battlefield, make a 1/1 white soldier with lifelink, only once each turn. But now your food are coming with dudes. Cool. Excellent. You can make a board state. Nuka-Cola Vending Machine. Very out of theme, but man, this card is just too strong to not include. It makes food for 1 and a tap, and whenever you sack a food, create a treasure. So now you're just sacking, you're just generating, and it's not even a tapped treasure. Oh, it is a tapped treasure, yeah. But crazy. That is not once a turn either. It's just an insane trigger. Okay, so this is Samwise. You know, he's whenever a non-token creature ETBs under your control, make food, so he makes foods. And then he'll also convert our foods into returning historic cards from our graveyard to our hand. So, you know, maybe this vending machine or any of our legendary guys. Just that's one of the benefits of running an IP kind of deck like this is, you know, any of the named characters are going to be legendary most likely. So you get to bring any of those back into your hand. Super good recursion. Then we're going to play Meridoc Brandybuck, see, legendary. Whenever one or more halflings you control attack a player again, so you can generate a bunch of food, you create a food token. 2 mana for a 2/2 that has pretty good food generation, is really nice. And then we're running into some like stronger stuff. If you want to include it, great. If you want to keep it more thematic, it's still, just the food power alone can definitely get you through. This is just some extra synergy to close out some games. So we run classic, Exquisite Blood, Sanguine Bond, Veto, Thorn of Dusk Rose. So, this is a pretty classic combination in Commander, but if you aren't aware, pretty much what these two effects are doing is whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life. He can enable it by giving creatures you control lifelink until end of turn. So what you need to do is you have one of these effects in play, or this effect in play, and then whenever you gain life, target opponent loses life. Whenever opponent loses life, you gain life, and then they just cycle each other out until you drain the whole table. Then these are just some more token synergistic cards that we're going to run here. So getting us into Griffinari, this is, if you gain 3 or more life, so if you cracked a food this turn, now you make Flying Defenders. So you get 2/2 Griffin with Flying. Can really help just keep us alive. Nykthos Paragon, he's a 6 mana 4/6. Whenever you gain life, put that many +1/+1 counters on each creature you control. Only triggers once each turn, but very incredible. Lathiel, the Boundless Dawn, she's kind of like a watered-down Nykthos Paragon. Life linking, 4 mana 2/2, but at the beginning of your end step, if you gained life this turn, distribute up to that many +1/+1 counters among creatures, among other target creatures. So, can buff your board. Teleportation Circle. This is just generic value. We have a lot of ETB triggers that, make a token, or, that can synergize with all of our other stuff making tokens. So just having an end step trigger is really just nice, just to flicker stuff. Talking about flickering things, Prosperous Innkeeper. Here's a good example. When he ETBs, makes a treasure. And then whenever another creature comes into play, you gain a life, which can synergize with this next section, which are going to be pingers. When artifacts die or come into play, we're going to be draining opponents. So this one's really good and on theme. It's a flying 2/3 for 4, and then whenever you create or sacrifice a token, each opponent loses 1 life. So you could create a food with Sam, sack it, and then everyone's going to lose 1 from the creation, 1 from the sack, and then you'll gain 3 and then hit somebody. Really good. Agent of the Iron Throne is insane when you're running partners. So then when you have Sam and Frodo out, ideally, which is the situation, each one of them, for every food you sack, every treasure you sack, is going to be draining them for 1 each. So it's 2 damage, 2 damage, 2 damage, and it's just so nice. Cauldron Familiar, this one's just very easy to loop. When it ETBs, everyone loses 1 and you gain 1, and then you sack a food, bring it back. And it can block. Really nice, really good blocker. Marionette Master, this is definitely closer to a win con than anything else. You're always going to fabricate to her, so then every time you crack a food, you can just ping off anything, Target opponent loses life equal to Marionette Master's power. It's pretty awesome. And so whenever an artifact you control is put into a graveyard is when it triggers. Braids. Braids is one of my favorite cards to come out of Dominaria United. But what she does is she gives you the opportunity to, at the beginning of your end step, you may sacrifice an artifact, creature, enchantment, or land, or planeswalker. And if you do, each opponent may sack the same. And if they don't, they lose 2 and you gain, or they lose 2 and you draw a card. So oftentimes you're just sacking foods because it doesn't matter to you. And then you either get rid of an artifact that they have, or they let you draw and they lose life. Nadir's Nightblade, whenever a token you control leaves the battlefield, you drain everybody and gain 1. Very, very strong. Same thing here with Disciple of the Vault. Whenever an artifact is put into a graveyard, though, from the battlefield, you may ping somebody for 1. So this is not just yours, everybody's. So you can really start pinging stuff down. And that gets us into the land. The land for this deck is super fun. We run Indatha Triome, on-theme Sandstep Citadel, a Murmuring Bosk. Path of Ancestry here can be very good through all the Hobbits. We have Command Tower and Fabled Passage. This is more of a fetch utility, but the rest of these can tap for all the colors that we need them to, so that's very nice. For our white-blacks, we're running Shine, Shadow, Snarl, and Caves of Kolios. Those are really easy to get online to make sure we have those pips, because Frodo on turn 2 is super valuable. For our green and white, running Razorverge Thicket, Brushland, Fortified Village, and our Temple Garden. Then we got our green and blacks, so we're running Necroblossom Snarl, Tainted Wood, Woodland Cemetery, and Blooming Marsh. So these are really good, just pretty fast lands to make sure that we have the green on turn 3 is when we really care to have the green. Really what we're trying to get is white and black by turn 2, so we can get Frodo out as fast as possible, start swinging. On theme, we got the Shire, Enters the battlefield, tapped unless you control legendary, but boom, pay 2, tap an untapped creature, make foods. It's really just in here as a forest that's on theme. And then speaking of on theme lands, we're going to run this many planes. We're running 6 planes. I love these planes because they have the Shire. Really thematic. They can be a pain to find the difference, especially between the plains and our swamps here. They are different, but we're running 6 of those too, just to make sure we got that going on. And then our big lands here is we're running forests. So we're going to be running just a little bit more by 1, running 7 forests on theme here too. But now that we got all that wrapped up, that will close it out for Frodo and Sam. Really what we're doing is just food tribal, Have you heard about Second Breakfast? Because that's what we are trying to do. And it's super fun. Really thematic. It makes you feel good playing it. You make a ton of foods. You're eating a ton of food. You're gaining a ton of life. You're getting to do a lot of things. Even if you don't win, you're still having a really good time getting to make all your tokens and having to play off all these Hobbit synergies. Really fun. But on another note, if you're enjoying this content, you enjoyed this deck tech, please remember to hit that like button, subscribe, and leave a comment down below of maybe the next deck tech I should try out. Or maybe some synergies that you noticed or want me to know about that I could throw into this deck myself. There's so many cards, pretty impossible to know all of them. But outside of all that, I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks. Bye.